Alright, so today I am Alyssa Murphy. I am the Partner Engagement Manager for the Western Region. And today we will have with us Brandon Royal, who is the Director of our Sales Engineering team and really focused on sales enablement and working with our partner channel. And we're happy to be here. We have some real simple objectives today. One, just really trying to understand some of the new functionality that we have in Sitecore 8, and then understanding how it's differentiating from some of our previous versions, and then hopefully, kind of thinking about some of your clients and as they're utilizing Sitecore and see how maybe some of these new functionality will address their needs. Want to make sure that everyone is aware that we do have Sitecore 8 classes in the works for you to attend. The first round of classes are listed here. They're not yet published on Sitecore.net. They will be in the upcoming days, but you can reach out to Chris Ransom, whose email is here on the screen. It's cra@sitecore.net. And Chris can also assist you with any questions or scheduling for upgrade classes and upgrade class availability for those of you who are already certified on a lower version of Sitecore. And if you have not yet seen it, please visit the new Sitecore 8 product section, which is listed out on our Sitecore Partner Network. There are presentations, white paper, product highlights that will answer many of the questions that you may have. The information that we're using for today's presentation can also be found out on the Sitecore Partner Network. This is just an overview of what we will be showing today before I hand it over to Brandon Royal, and he'll go into more depth, but really kind of focusing on some of the new functionality and the experience optimization, experience profiling, some of the new personalization UIs, and testing and optimization. And before I hand this over to Brandon, wanted to make sure if you guys have any questions or if you need help with an opportunity or you want to discuss a client, please reach out to your regional partner engagement manager, whose contact information is listed on this screen. All right, with that, I'm going to hand this presentation over to Brandon Royal, and we'll do an overview here of Sitecore.
Perfect. Thank you, Alyssa. Okay, I apologize for the screen resolution issues. We'll certainly work those out, as I mentioned in the chat window here. Again, just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Brandon Royal. I'm the Director of Partner Ecosystems in the Sales Engineering team based out of our San Francisco headquarters. And really, the objective, as Alyssa had mentioned, is just to provide that high-level overview of Sitecore 8 capability, giving our partner ecosystem sort of that level of comfort with what Sitecore 8 brings to bear, what that functionality that makes Sitecore very unique in the marketplace. So with that, I will be going through just some quick slides, and we'll also be going through a live demonstration here as well. But just to set the stage here, Sitecore's ultimate mission is to empower organizations to build the effective, meaningful relationships that help us win customers for life. So all of the functionality that we're going to be showcasing in today's demonstration and talking about is really centered around this whole idea. But the reality is that, actually executing that from a marketing perspective or from an IT perspective is non-trivial. So there's a lot of tools you need to keep in mind. You need to think about integrations. And just from the pure marketing perspective, being able to execute on that is really difficult. So you need a unified tool set in order to make that whole process a lot easier. So what framework has Sitecore been laying? What foundation have we been laying functionally to allow for that highly relevant, highly empowered marketing experience that allows marketers to win customers for life? Well, it really started with the release of Sitecore 7. So as many on the call may be aware, Sitecore 7 was our content foundation, meaning that we were really focused on high volumes of content. So being able to structure your content in some unique ways, having integrated search capability on the back end and on the front end, really making that search experience much stronger around our content. And then there's new user interface foundations laid in 7.1 and 7.2. So 7.2 introduced our speak interfaces, and that's really what Sitecore 8 is built on. There was also some new introductions in terms of publishing features and optimization. And then 7.5 was our data foundation. So that's where we introduced the concept of the experience database. There's lots of great information out on the partner network and our developer communities about the experience database and what it does and what it is from a technical perspective. But that's what really allows our robust analytics solution to work, to be able to collect data at high volume, utilizing MongoDB, our NoSQL provider, to be able to collect big data at scale. And then what we're going to be talking about today, which is Sitecore 8. So that's the customer experience platform, that functional foundation that allows our marketers to win. Okay, so what is Sitecore 8? So as we're focusing on the capability of Sitecore 8, keep in mind it's all about knowing every customer and shaping every experience. And in order to do that, you need to start with a dashboard. So one place that marketers, administrators, business users, content authors can start from and go and utilize all their favorite applications within Sitecore. That's what we call the Launchpad. So the Launchpad was introduced in Sitecore 8. It looks a little bit like this. We're going to be showing this in the demonstration here as well. That also includes the content authoring interfaces. So content authoring is still the center point of managing web experiences. So Sitecore actually took the time and effort to make sure everything is completely unified. So the content authoring experience from the content editor, from the page editor, which is now called the experience editor, has been completely unified. So it's all a unified experience on the back end for authors. Okay. So the four major areas that we're going to be focusing on today is first testing and optimization. So testing and optimization was completely re-architected for Sitecore 8 and really focuses on testing everything. So allowing marketers to test everything in a very organic sort of way. We're also going to be looking at the experience profile. And the experience profile is really that single view of the customer. So allowing us to look and see exactly what users are doing across multiple interactions, across multiple channels. Then we're going to look at some new and interesting aggregated views of our analytics, called experience analytics. Then we're going to be looking at personalization as well as simulation. Okay. So first, testing and optimization. So as I mentioned before, it's all about testing everything and doing it in an organic sort of way. And that means really not performing your tests on an island. And when I say that, I mean it's not about creating your content in one location and using a completely different tool to be able to create your tests and then isolate the outcomes of those tests. It's really about doing it in an organic way. So as you're building your tests, you're building your content that you're testing, right? You want to be able to do that in a clean path. So what that means is being able to provide interfaces which are very native to the way that content authors work within Sitecore. And that's what Sitecore 8 has done. So now you can see in this example, we want to be able to test out some various components or content on this homepage, and we can see how the optimization tools have been built right in. So as we're creating content, as we're creating testing variations, we can just push it through a workflow approval process and automatically test those variations. We can see a lot of dashboards have been created around gaining those insights. So figuring out the amount of traffic, the uplift that each variation is bringing to bear. Okay. Next, the experience profile. So the experience profile technically actually was introduced in Sitecore 7.5, but Sitecore 8 brings a lot of new functionality into the experience profile. And it's really about creating that single view of the customer's interactions across all channels. It's really that simple. So a lot of the data that Sitecore has been collecting ever since DMS, it gives us a unique way of actually centering around the contact, so that unique individual, who they are, what their name is, what they're interested in, what interactions they've had online, offline, across all of our channels. And it looks something like this. So now we can see the timeline on the top portion of the user interface that shows each one of our interactions. We can see all the details around their pattern matches, their visits. how long they spent on each and every page, campaigns they're associated with. Truly a single view of the customer. And here's another example of this as well. And really that gets even more interesting when we start thinking about other aspects of Sitecore that we're not going to be talking about specifically today, but we'll have some follow-up seminar or webinars on, of things like Federated Experience Manager, where we can actually go and reach out to non-Sitecore sites, personalize, collect analytics data. So the X file gets even more interesting, the experience profile gets even more interesting when we look at pulling in that external data. We can also think about extending the XDB data set. So we can use what's called custom data ingestion. So we can pull in that data into the XDB contact or the interaction. So we can start to gain even more insights into what the user is actually doing online, on and off the Sitecore properties. And then we can integrate that with leading CRM systems. So like Dynamics CRM, Salesforce CRM, we can pull that data and selectively synchronize data between CRM systems. Experience analytics. So experience analytics has actually been something, or Sitecore's analytics dashboards have been something that have been around for some time, but Sitecore's taken a new approach on viewing the aggregated analytics that Sitecore's collecting behind the scenes. So we wanted to provide some new unified interfaces that allow us to see that high-level aggregated view. We also want to create them in a very extensible way that allows our customers and partners to gain better insights. And it looks something like this. So we're going to go through some various dashboards that allow us to see everything from different pattern matches to the segments of our customers that are coming online, keywords that they might be using, or references that might be getting them to various site properties that are being managed on Sitecore. We can also look at some path analysis, so we can analyze the various paths that users are taking on the site. Okay, and then last but not least, I promise we'll get the slide we're wrapped up here and get on to the demonstration, is personalization. And personalization is one thing that Sitecore's been doing really well for a while, but Sitecore 8 makes it even easier. So allowing users to personalize that content online, gain better insights through personalization dashboards, and then of course allowing for simulation before going live. So things like the Experience Explorer being built in natively into the platform so we can go and navigate around and simulate various user experiences and how that personalization impacts those experiences. And here's a quick view of the Experience Explorer for those who haven't seen it before. So it allows users to go and simulate various aspects of the profile of the user experience, what pages they dip into, what goals they might have converted, any campaigns they might be associated with. All that information we can simulate in the Experience Explorer. Okay, on to the demonstration. Okay, so as I mentioned before in the slides, we want to start things off with the Launchpad. So the Launchpad is really that area that all of our business users, whether they're marketers, content authors, administrators, that's where everyone will come. So when you first log into Sitecore, this is the page that you'll see. It's organized in a very natural way, so our marketing interfaces on the left side are pulled together here. We also have things like our content editor, experience editor, media library, and workbox. These are more for our content authors. We have other administrative tools available here, such as our control panel and application center, and then other security interfaces, again, for administrators. Now we're going to first focus on the content editing experience and do what normal content authors and marketers do, create content. So we're going to be using this site here. This is called Launch Sitecore. Launch Sitecore, just to give you a high-level overview of what the site's all about for those who haven't seen it before. It's all about creating content and creating content for multiple audiences. So we have various articles, we have things like events and glossary terms, then we also have some key objectives like downloading specific assets. So we can see on the bottom part of the page here, we have our digital marketer, content owner, developer, and network architect personas. We've created our content with the personas in mind. We've also tagged our content appropriately, so as users go and navigate around the site and consume content, Sitecore is able to naturally profile who they are based on those tags. Now, for those not familiar with the experience editor, you'll notice as I'm hovering around the page, there's a dotted line which indicates I can make changes to this aspect of the page, whether it's a specific field or an entire component. Sitecore is also giving me a relevant toolbar. So for rich text fields, I have some rich text options. For images, I have some image options. Sitecore is a component-based architecture as well, so I can select various components and move them around on the page and change all sorts of configuration, including multivariate tests and personalization, something we're going to be getting into just a minute. So for this particular scenario, I want to start off with an event. So naturally, since we are trying to get our users to engage online and offline, we want to be able to have event registrations for various user groups that we want to have around the country. So the first thing we want to do is create an event page. So we're going to navigate to our upcoming events, and we're going to click Insert Page. We're going to select the event template, and this is going to be our San Francisco Developer User Group. Okay. So we create the page, navigate it directly to it, and we can see we have a couple base components that are built into the template that we can start to use, but we can also go and build this out. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll create some meaningful content here. Go ahead and copy some content from a Word document, place it into our rich text. Open up our rich text editor. A whole lot we can do within the rich text editor. Nothing major has changed here in Sitecore 8. This has just been updated to the new user interface look and feel. But we can go and paste Word, strip out all that funny alien tags that Word's going to bring along with us, and go ahead and extend it. Okay, so that's a good start, and I can continue to manage this in line if I want to, but I want to do a little bit more. This page isn't all that exciting, so I'll go ahead and add a new component, saving that first. Add a new component on the top of the page. I'm going to choose an image spot. Save that. And I want to add an image as well. So here's our media browser. This has been also updated. This is pulling directly from Sitecore's media library. So we can go and grab an asset from search, or we can go and upload an asset here as well. To upload an asset, to show you how it works really quick, we can just go ahead and upload media, drag and drop our asset, give it some meaningful metadata, and do upload. So here's my recently uploaded images. I've already got this Golden Gate Bridge picture uploaded, so I'll use that. Click OK. It's looking better already. Okay. I'll add one more component on the bottom, just so I make sure my event registrants know where they're going. I'll add a Google Map widget on the bottom. Perfect. Okay. That's a really good start. So if I wanted to go and publish this out, I can do that. I can approve it through a workflow approval process and publish it out automatically, as many of you know. But you might be asking yourself, well, how do I ensure that the messaging that I'm using on this page is effective? So this register now, this is the call to action that I'm trying to utilize for users to actually register. So I want to make sure that the messaging around this registration is highly effective. So before I go and deploy this out, I'll go and create a new multivariate text. I'm going to use some more urgent messaging just to try out whether being more urgent is going to be helpful to increase my registrations. So I'm going to select my urgent content that I've created. I'm going to click OK. And now you'll see we have those two variations, my original as well as my urgent. So here's my urgent messaging here. And again, I can change this in line if I want to. All right, that looks perfect. Now, for those who are used to pushing content through a workflow approval process, things will be no different for pushing the test through as well. So Sitecore's testing and optimization framework also includes direct integration into Sitecore's workflow approval process. So I'll push this into the awaiting approval state. My boss can get a notification saying it's ready for their approval. Since I'm coming in as administrator, I'll just push it through myself. But you'll notice in this workflow state, there's an approved, just as I normally would, approve button here. There's a reject, but there's also an approve and test. So this is the integration I was referring to. When we do approve and test, the optimization dialog comes up. So this allows that business user who's not necessarily a technical person, doesn't have to be a developer or anything like that, to actually perform the testing configuration themselves. So now in preview mode, we can see a preview of each one of the components, or each one of the variations, excuse me. We can see all the detailed variables here. So the component, and this is truly multivariate. So if I was doing the variation, I had multiple variations on the page, it would build out all the different combinations for me. It shows specifics on the experiences that are going to be created, and based on historical data that's available, it's going to give me an idea of how long it's going to take to complete. Since I don't have any historical data, this is running on my local machine. It's not showing me anything, but this will say, this will take 14 days or 20 days or whatever to complete to reach statistical significance. We also have the amount of, or the percentage of visitors that we want to expose this test to. So it can start with 50%, 25%. This is also going to impact my projections. So based on that historical data, the forecasting that's available is going to be based on the percentage I expose. And then we have our confidence level, which standard is 95%. We can also point to objectives, so different goals or conversions. We'll just leave that default and select OK. That should be published out. Now if I switch to my other browser here, I've completely cleared my cookies on this other browser, so this is a completely clean session. Sitecore doesn't know anything about me from existing sessions. It just knows my IP address and uses a reverse DNS service to figure out my city, my state, my latitude, my longitude. And then it's listening to my behaviors online. So first of all, we can go to my events. I should see my new event that was just published. There we go. And here's the content that I did. And you can see, based on that, the multivariate test, I have the register now. Should be able to click on this register button. I'll use John Jones. Okay, so Sitecore's analytics has been capturing every click that I've made. It's noticed that I've gone to the event registration page and actually registered, became a known user. But it's also listening to more implicit behaviors that I'm showing on the site. So if I'm looking at digital marketing content as an example, Sitecore is going to capture the profiling around me. So it's going to naturally do a profile match, figure out that I'm more likely a digital marketer based on that content I'm consuming. This demo site has a little flyout here on the right side and shows what those matches are behind the scenes in real time. But Sitecore also has other interfaces that allow us to do that. I'm going to be showing you that in a minute. Okay, that's good enough. We'll go ahead and log out. That's going to close my session, close my browser here as well. So with a little bit of luck, I should be able to go to my optimization tab. We can see this is highlighted in red, showing the fact that I do have a test running. Oh, data hasn't registered quite yet. It does take a couple minutes for that data to register, but here's a view. I'll come back to this here as well, but here's a view of our test results in real time. So our users that are going on the site and consuming content and going to this page where the test resides are going to be showing up in this test results view. So what about that individual user? So what does that user actually look like? How do we gain insights into the interactions that they're doing on the site? One way of doing that is using what's called the experience profile that we talked about before. And the experience profile is an accumulation of all the interactions that they're doing on the site across multiple properties. So here are all the activities that I'm doing. So here are my online activities. So here's John Jones. You can see my email address, as well as every page that I visited, how long I spent on each page, and any campaigns that I'm associated with. I can look at additional profiling details, so any pattern matches. What we saw on that right flyout, this is also being shown here as well. So the best pattern match in terms of the high-level content that I'm interested in, as well as being most likely a digital marketer. And other details here, these are more explicit details that we can again synchronize with the CRM system like Dynamic CRM or Salesforce CRM, so we can view this data that's being stored in the CRM. Now, if I wanted to use things like XDB data ingestion, so being able to pull other external data, I can also show this here as well. So any of those extensions to the contact record, the X profile interface is designed to be extensible, so we can actually create additional tabs here and then show that data that's being ingested. Okay. Now the next thing we want to look at is analytics. So of course, being a content marketer, I want to see the types of users that are coming to my site. I want to see what those profiles look like and what are the pages that I'm getting the highest impact from. So creating an event, it's important that I create the event content as I've already done, but I want to utilize the users that are coming onto the site and browsing around. Now, of course, since I'm creating a developer event, I want to be able to target those developers that Sitecore is figuring out through those tags. So back to our personas, if you recall, we have those 4 major personas. One of those was a developer, and that's based on tagged content. So we want to start looking at an aggregated view and see where the highest impact of all those profiles are. And the first place to do that is through our experience analytics. I'm going to be using some real live data here. That's actually running off of launchsitecore.net. And I'm going to start by looking at my experience analytics dashboard. I won't go into all the details of the experience analytics dashboard. There's a lot to cover. But really it's designed to show you all the different views of your visitors, where they're coming from, what they've done, keywords, campaigns, profiles, goals, all that is being shown in an aggregated view using standard metrics that you may be used to, like visits and Sitecore engagement value. So here's an overview of my visitors by channel, by top campaign, and all of my pattern matches. And I can dive into this deeper, looking at the specific locations of all the visitors that are coming to my site. This is based on the reverse DNS system, so Sitecore actually does this automatically, and it uses the IP address of the request to figure out the country, city, state, and region of the visitor that's coming. We can see an aggregated view of our data, highlights United States as being the top region, and specific smaller regions like California and Texas. And I can dive into individual cities. Now, I also want to look at patterns. This is really specific to me since I'm creating an event that's tied to a particular persona. I want to understand my patterns. So what those top pattern matches are and how they look over time. So here are all of my pattern matches. We can see the top one by visit is in fact the developer. And then we've got our digital marketer and content owner and network architect down here. So by far the developer is our most prominent pattern match on the site. You can also look at it by value, so not only the amount of traffic that that persona is bringing, but also the value that they're bringing. So what conversions are they making on the site that are interesting for us to track? So things like logging in, registering, downloading assets. Those are things that we want to keep track of and attribute value to. So we can see even our developer is highest value. There are other things we can look at here. Acquisition, so where users are coming from, what channels are they aligned to, are there specific campaigns they're associated with, and we can also look at other behaviors in detail as well. Okay, so that gives me a pretty good baseline. I know I want to be concentrating on my developers, and of course since I have a developer event, that's really good for me, but I want to focus on what aspect of the page or what aspect of the site, so what pages really, I should be targeting my content on. So what are the biggest bang for my buck that I can consider when I want to maybe create a personalized experience? So one way of actually looking at that is using what's called a path analyzer. It's another aggregated view of all of our analytics, but we're able to focus on the paths of the individuals that are coming. So everything starts with this center dot here, and then moves to various sites or various pages throughout the site as you'd expect, like our homepage. This is all color organized, so we can see that dark green means it's very positive. It's bringing a lot of value to the site. Red is negative, meaning they're not bringing a whole lot of value to the site, not driving those conversions that we care about. This one is particularly interesting to me, so I can move over here. I can see the paths that are actually bringing a ton of value. And if I look at here, it's the login page, and then the download page is actually driving the most value. And I can go and analyze this in detail, see specifically where users are coming from, how many users are landing directly on this page, how many users are exiting from this page. So it gives us a lot of insight. We can also go and edit this directly if we wanted to go and make changes to the content itself. So that's actually pretty interesting to me. It looks like the download page and the login page have a ton of value. We can look at all the statistics on the left side. A lot of visitors are coming here that are known, that are developers, and are driving significant value. So those are great candidates for my event. Let's go ahead and create some personalization in order to target those visitors. Okay. So very similar to creating the event page, we want to do some personalization on our login page this time. And we want to target it based on those developer personas that are coming to the site. So we simply just navigate to the login page, just as we normally would if we were on the front end. And we can see we have a spot on the bottom left side, perfect spot for me to go and create my personalization. So I'm going to do add to here. Similar to what I was doing on the event page, I can go and browse for different components. I'm going to use a component that allows me to select any type of content. Since Sitecore is fundamentally separating out the content from the presentation, I can now browse to my content repository and pick that page that I just created. I'll navigate to my event section, developer user group, click OK, and there we go. So there's my image, my title, and my abstract, as well as the link to learn more. Now that's good, but I'm really going to be showing this to everyone in this case. So I want to target this specifically just for my developers. So I'm going to click this personalize button right here. I'm going to add a new condition, and I'm going to call this developers. Point it to that content, and then I'm going to hide this default. So similar user interface to what we were looking at for the multivariate testing example. The only difference is Sitecore is going to go down this list and say, is this user a developer? If so, this is the content we're going to show them. Otherwise, show them the default, which in this case is a hidden component. But we do need to also configure the rules around that, so we can use the rules editor. And there's a whole lot of rules that Sitecore comes out of the box with. In this case, I want to focus on pattern matches. Pattern. Select my audience segment profile and my developer pattern. Okay. Okay. So here's my abstract spot. We can see by default it's hidden. If this user is a developer, that's the content that they're going to be seeing, this newly created content I just wrote. But of course I need a way of actually simulating that. So, as we saw in the path analyzer, there's all sorts of different ways that a user could come to this login page. So how do I know confidently as a marketer that a user is actually going to see what I intend them to see, especially if I'm creating more complex personalization scenarios? The answer to that is to use what's called our Experience Explorer. So I'm going to navigate back to the home page. And instead of using the edit mode as I'm in right now, I can click and move to the Explore mode. Live demos. Sorry about that. I will not be showing you the Experience Explorer there, but I'll go ahead and show you some screenshots of what that looks like. Using the Experience Explorer as we were showing before, just to highlight what this looks like. On the left side here, you can see the edit mode. So we can edit the settings, including having various presets, and we can change details like on-site behavior or visitor information. On the right side, we can view the information in real time. So as the user is actually browsing around the site, so in my example, if the user were to go and look at more developer-centric content, we would see details around their on-site behavior and their profile match on the right side here. Also, we can see under our page configuration, the personalization rules that we're configuring will actually show us exactly why we're showing various conditions. And we can even hover over these and we can see, in the case that we just configured, is this a developer? So the developer match would show and the details around what condition we're showing and why. I apologize for the demo issues there. So just to wrap things up, as I was talking about in the introduction, Sitecore's platform is designed to be unified to allow marketers to build those real, relevant, highly personalized experiences, and to do it through a platform that allows them to do everything within the same user interfaces. So it really starts with personalizing those messages across all channels, using those same user interfaces that you're creating and managing content, building out your page designs. You can create those personalization rules that allow you to create those relevant experiences. Managing that content, we didn't go into the content editor, but content editor and the media library allow us to manage all of that content information and assets, structure it, search against it, and organize it in our own way. We can also use Sitecore's analytics tool to gain really rich insights into an aggregated view. So how many visitors are coming, what our personas look like, where our users are coming from, even on the level of path analysis. So looking at where our users are, what pages our users are going to, and the value that actually brings to us as an organization. All of our backend data that we can see through the example of our user that we had before. So, what data the, John Smith is the example, or John Jones is the example that we were going through. What detailed information are we actually storing about that user? All that is designed for scale, all stored on our backend XDB. Okay. And that's it. Now we want to open it up for questions. We've got a whole lot of questions in the window here, and we'll have some time to answer them.
Type them into the chat window.
So a question from Eric, is the site you're demoing available to download to play with what you just showed? The answer to that is yes. So it's actually available. In fact, all of the data that I was showing within this view here is from a live site. So you can go to www.launchsitecore.net and you can actually download, so register and download. And of course, all your analytics data, since that's a Sitecore managed site, is going to be shown in this aggregated view. You can see how that works there. But yes, that is available. You can go and download it for the latest version of Sitecore. Okay, quite a few questions here. Melissa, feel free to say any questions that are jumping out.
I don't have any on my screen.
Oh, okay.
You are the king of
Yeah, sure. No problem. It's all good. Um, so there were some questions around the bug that I just ran into in the demonstration. Just to be completely transparent with that, that bug actually has to do with writing to custom profile attributes. So we have a little widget that writes to the favorites, and I forgot to turn that off for my demonstration. So you will run into that if you're writing custom attributes like anything into the visitor profile within the simulator. But normally you wouldn't run into that. You can I can provide a follow-up for details of how to avoid that, but not a huge issue. So there are other questions around, how the Sitecore Analytics tool compares to Google Analytics. It's a really good question. So really, that was one of our objectives is to really compete with market-leading analytics solutions. So providing those standard reports that business users come to expect with analytics. So really, the first version of Experience Analytics, what I'm showing you today, as well as the Path Analyzer tool, are designed specifically to meet those objectives. So there's another question around examples of integrating with social media. So while I don't have the social integration turned on in this demonstration site, within the experience profile, there is that social tab, and the social tab allows us to see what the social authentication, so Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, whatever they're using to actually log in, that's the data that we're going to be showing. So they can use those just as we're using the login and registration on this demonstration site to actually log in. Okay, another question on Email Experience Manager. So this is another thing that we haven't touched on the demonstration today, but it's something we'd like to do a follow-up on for the partner community, and that is, what does the experience marketing tool really do? So the experience marketing tool was really redesigned for Sitecore 8 as well, just to provide you a bit of a high level, and really was designed around using the same interfaces, the inline editing interfaces, the analytics tools to create, manage, and deploy your email messages. So we'll be doing a follow-up on that one as well. Okay. Well, any other questions? There's a ton of questions that we're not going to be able to get to, unfortunately, here, but we will be following up, and I'll be sure to write an email for those who are asking questions and be sure we have an FAQ available on the product.
And thank you so much for taking time out of your day today, and this will conclude our first Sitecore 8 overview for our partner channel. Have yourself a great week.